Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam shekidshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu la'asok b'divrei Torah. So I have us on, we had just started chapter 6 last time, and Marlene Sandberg is coming in. So let me just, yeah, here she is. Okay, so we had started chapter 6 last time, so we're up to verse 7, page 205 in this edition. So just to get us up to speed from the first 6 sentences, we're now discussing the suffering at the hands of the Midianites, and how they would steal the sheep. So verse 6, Israel was brought very low because of Midian, and the children of Israel cried out unto God. Okay, so let's read 7 through 10. Vayehi ki za'aku b'nei Yisrael el Adonai al odot Midian. And so it was that the people of Israel cried out to God because of what Midian did. Or the al odot Midian, the happenings of Midian, or the things that Midian did. 8, Vayishlach Adonai ish navi el b'nei Yisrael, vayomer lahem, ko amar Adonai Elohei Yisrael, anochi ha'eleti etchem mimitzrayim, va'otzi etchem mibeit avadim. So God sent a prophet, a man prophet, to the people of Israel, and he said to them, this is what God, so said God, the God of Israel, I brought you up out of Egypt, and I took you out of the house of bondage. 9, Va'atzil etchem miyad Mitzrayim, umiyad kol lochatseichem, va'agaresh otam mipnechem, va'etna lachem et artsam. And I saved you from the hand of Egypt, and from the hand of all your oppressors, and I drove them out from before you, and I gave their land to you. 10, Va'omra lachem, it's just an unusual format of the verb there. It should be Va'omar lachem, it's an extra hey. Va'omra lachem, ani Adonai Elohechem, lo tiru et Elohei ha'emori, asher atem yoshvim ba'artzam, velo shematem bekoli. And I said to you, I am God, your God. Don't fear the gods of the Amorites, among whom you are dwelling, and don't listen, and you have not listened to my voice. So the interesting thing here is, who is this prophet who's talking? Why isn't he named? But we'll see, maybe he'll be named shortly. I think it's just unusual that the prophet isn't named when God sent a prophet to them. But let's see the commentary. A prophet points the moral. On the right-hand side there below, the purpose of the verse, which reproduces the second part of the preceding sentence, that is, that the people of Israel cried out to God, is to stress the point that no matter how grievously Israel may have sinned, when he cries to God in anguish, God has compassion upon his plight and intervenes on his behalf. That is Israel, on Israel's behalf. A prophet, literally a man, a prophet. Well, I translated it as a man prophet. Okay, perhaps it is in contradistinction to angel of the Lord in verse 11. Rabbinic tradition identifies the prophet as it does the angel in chapter 2:1 with Pinchas. So the anonymous prophet here could be the high priest Pinchas. Okay, could be, but we don't know. We'll see what Alter has to say about it. So now on 206, I brought you up from Egypt, etc. The wording is reminiscent of the first commandment, Exodus 20, Deuteronomy 5. The great act of redemption is recalled here, as often by later prophets, to keep the people mindful of God's infinite might and choice of Israel, but also of their duty to show their gratitude and loyal obedience. I delivered you. God had fulfilled his promise to Moses, but Israel had failed in his undertaking. Out of the hands of the Egyptians, this is more than a repetition of I brought you up out of Egypt in verse 8, and alludes to the deliverance at the Red Sea. All that oppressed you, namely the peoples of Canaan, east and west of the Jordan. The same thought is expressed in chapter 2 and in 1 Samuel. Drove them out to be connected with all that oppressed you. Gave, the verb in the Hebrew is more forceful, but there is no equivalent in English for the energetic form used in the original. Okay. I said, here too, the cohortative is employed, va'omra. So it's a more emphatic sense of I said. I am, etc. See Exodus 20. The gods of the Amorites, the phrase occurs in Joshua 24. It is not surprising to find a prophet in the time of the judges familiar with the contents of the book of Joshua. But you have not hearkened, voice. These few words convey the gist of the communication and explain why the people were suffering from the raids of the Midianites. Okay, so let's see what Alter has to say here. He says nothing, so don't even bother opening it, because there is nothing that he has on verses 7 through 10. So we don't, so all we're left with, excuse me, all we're left with is the rabbinic idea of who this anonymous prophet is. It's still unusual, doesn't sit well with me. I'm not sure why the book of Judges would leave this guy anonymous, or maybe it's just here as just a reminder note to the people that they should never forget, just like the Passover Seder every year, we should never forget the Exodus from Egypt. Okay, so 11, let's read 11 to 24. Vayavo malach Adonai, vayeshev tachat ha'elah, asher be'ofra, asher leyoash avi ha'ezri, vegidon beno chovet chitim bagat, lahanis mipnei Midian. Okay, so an angel of God came and sat under the terebinth. Can't tell you what a terebinth is, but that's always how Elah is translated, which is in Ophrah. Don't know where that is, which belonged to Joash, the Aviezrite. And Gideon, his son, was beating wheat in the wine press in order to hide it from the Midianites. Okay, so an angel of God is under the terebinth that belonged to Joash, the Aviezri. And so the angel's under the terebinth, and Gideon is beating wheat in a wine press. Okay? 12. Vayera Elav, yes?
Wouldn't the Midianites be more interested in getting wine rather than wheat?
Maybe it wasn't wine season.
Okay, next question. Was Abraham sitting under a terebinth
Yes,
when the three angels? Okay, thank you.
yes. Well, there's something with Abraham and a terebinth. Yes.
Thank you.
Well, it's Elonei Mamre. That could be Elonei Mamre? That place could be the terebinths, the plural of Elah could be. Yes, we see it in the book of Genesis. So there are a lot of terebinths around. So maybe if you Google terebinth, you'll see what it looks like. 12. Vayera elav malach Adonai, vayomer elav Adonai imcha gibor hechayil. So the angel of God appeared to him and said to him, God is with you, you mighty warrior, or you mighty soldier. It says mighty man of valor, gibor hechayil, like Eshet Chayil. So that's why valor is used here, but Chayil is also a Chayal is a soldier. So a mighty warrior. 13. Vayomer elav Gidon, bi Adonai, bi Adoni, v'yesh Adonai imanu. Vilama mitzatanu kol zot. Va'aye kol niflaotav. Asher sipru lanu avotenu lemor halomi mitzrayim he'elanu Adonai va'ata netashanu Adonai va'yitnenu bechaf Midian. So Gideon talks with a little bit of chutzpah. So Gideon says to him, to the angel of God, "Oh my Lord." So be Adonai. So when I first read it, I thought, why are you choosing me, my Lord? But it's more, oh my Lord, if God is with us, why then has all this happened? That is the suffering at the hands of Midian. And where are all the wondrous deeds that our ancestors told us, or that our fathers, maybe it's literally our fathers told us, saying, didn't God bring us up out of Egypt? And now God has delivered us into the hands and given us into the hands of Midian. So, in other words, what are you doing here sitting under a terebinth? We need help. Where are the wondrous acts of God to save us from the Midianites? 14. Vayifen elav Adonai vayomer lech bechochacha zeh vahoshata et Yisrael mikaf Midian halo shelachticha. So God turned to him and said, go with your might. Yeah, go in this your might. Lech bechochacha zeh. I'm giving you strength, and go with this strength and save Israel from the hand of the Midianites. Haven't I sent you? So the Hebrew's weird. How does Gideon know he's been sent? He just sees the angel. So God now says, haven't I sent you? Isn't it obvious that that's what I'm doing here? 15. Vayomer elav bi Adonai bama oshia et Yisrael. Hine al pi hadal b'menashe ve'anochi hatzair beveit avi. So he says to him, "Oh my Lord." So be Adonai. Now to the angel he said, "Be Adoni." Now to God, he's saying, "Be Adonai." So it's just a way of talking to you, to a way of talking to in a formal way to God. Oh my Lord, with what am I supposed to save the people of Israel. Alpi. So it's translated, my family is among the poor of Menashe, and I am the youngest in my house, in my father's house. 16. Vayomer elav Adonai, ki eheye imach, vihikita et Midian ki ish echad. And God said to him, I will be with you, and you will smite the Midianites as one man. Like all of Midian will be considered one person, and you'll be able to smite all of the Midianites. 17. Vayomer elav, imna matzati chen be'einecha, va'asita li ot shata medaber imi. So this is very similar to like Moses at the burning bush. He said to him, that is, Gideon says to God, if I have found favor in your eyes, make for me a sign that you are speaking with me. Like, in other words, this is all in my head, Gideon is saying. How do I know that I'm really speaking with you and that you're really speaking with me? 18, Alna tamush mizeh ad boi elecha, v'hotzeti et minchati, v'hinachti lefanecha, v'yomar anochi eshev ad shuvecha. So he's speaking to the angel, which is God speaking through the angel. And so Gideon continues, don't leave from here until I come back and I have brought out an offering that I will place before you. And he said, the angel said, I'll stay until you come back. 19, V'gidon ba vayas gedi izim ve'efat kemach matzot habasar sam basal ve'hamarak sam ba parud vayotse elav el tachat ha'elah vayagash. And Gideon came and prepared a goat, a baby goat, and a measure of flour, and a measure of flour that he made into matzah, and the meat he put in a basket, and the soup, says here the broth, and the broth he put in a pot, and he brought it to him under the terebinth and presented it. 20. Vayomer elav malach ha'Elohim, kach et habasar ve'et hamatzot ve'hanach el hasela halaz ve'et hamarak shefoch vaya'as kein. So the angel of God, so it's not Malach Adonai, it's Malach Elohim here. Why is it switched from Adonai to Elohim? Don't know. So the angel of God said to him, take the meat and the matzah and put it on this rock, and the soup, the broth, spill out, and he did so. 21. Vayishlach malach Adonai et kitzei hamishenet asher biyado, vayiga babasar uvamatzot, v'ta'al ha'esh min hatzur, v'tochal et habasar ve'et hamatzot, umalach Adonai halach me'enav. So the angel of God, now it switches to Adonai. The angel of God sent out the edge, the end of the cane or the walking stick, mishenet. It's something to lean on. So it's So it's a cane that was in his hand, that was in the angel's hand, and the angel with the cane touched the meat and the matzah, and fire arose from the rock and consumed the meat and the matzah, and the angel of God went away from before him, from before his eyes. 22, Vayar Gidon ki malach Adonai hu, Vayomer Gidon, aha, Adonai Elohim, ki al kain ra'iti malach Adonai, panim el panim. Gideon saw that it was an angel of God, and Gideon said, aha, Adonai, 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 Adonai. So Adonai Elohim. Because I have seen the angel of God face to face. It says here, alas, O Lord God, for as much as I've seen the angel of the Lord face to face. Like maybe he realized it too late. Like he's asking for a sign, and then there's the sign, and the angel departs immediately. Oh, I missed my opportunity for more of this spiritual, awesome moment. I guess that's what the aha means. 23, Vayomer lo Adonai, Shalom lecha, al tira, lo tamut. Or maybe he's upset because he's seen this angel face to face, and he knows from the Torah nobody can see God face to face and live. So now 23 says, God said to him, peace unto you, don't be afraid, you're not going to die. 24, Vayiven sham Gidon mizbeach l'Adonai, Vayikra lo Adonai shalom ad hayom hazeh, Odenu be'ofrat avi ha'ezri. So Gideon built there an altar to God, and he called it Adonai Shalom, and it's called that until today. And it's still in Ophrah of the Abiezrites, whoever that is.
Mm-hmm. Right, Jonah?
Okay. Yes, Marlene.
So, but I mean, but not being able, I thought it's different, like not being able to see God face to face and live is different than seeing an angel, isn't it? Because even Jacob wrestled with the angel, right?
No, that's true. That's true. But I think here, just from the cryptic story, God is speaking through the angel.
Okay.
So maybe then Gideon is afraid that this angelic being who sounds like God might now have endangered Gideon's life.
Right.
And
Okay.
and Gideon also asked for a sign to prove that it was God, and the angel gives the sign, tells him what to do, and then consumes the sacrifice. Uh-oh, I was too close. I saw too much, maybe. I don't know. Let's see what the commentary has to say, because again, it is cryptic, this story. So bottom of 206, Gideon receives the call. Angel of the Lord. From verse 12, it may perhaps be inferred that as yet he was invisible to Gideon. Sat. If understood literally, it suggests the picture of a wayfarer resting under a tree. But Kimchi, again, one of the medieval commentators, renders tarried, stayed, as in verse 18, and points out that angels invariably revealed themselves in erect posture. According to Midrash, however, he was indeed sitting. Okay, so is there a proper way for angels to be presenting themselves to human beings? I don't know, but certainly the commentators and the rabbis before them like to try to come up with rules for angels appearing to people. And maybe there just is no rule. Angels appear however angels appear. Under the terebinth, he was apparently unobserved. The Midrash remarks that he, 207, waited to hear the end of a conversation taking place between Gideon and his father in a wine press, where the two of them were threshing wheat. Gideon was saying, "Father, you're too old for this work. Go home to rest and leave the threshing to me. If the Midianites come, I shall deal with them." The angel, impressed by his display of filial affection and personal courage, decided that Gideon was the man most fitted by his qualities to be Israel's savior. Okay, so it's like an origin story. We don't know why the angel or God picked Gideon. So the rabbis have to come up with a story to make him worthy. All the way back to Abraham. What did Abraham do for the first 75 years of his life until God spoke to Abraham and said, "Get out and go to this land that I'm showing you." So the rabbis come up with stories from Abraham's youth all the way through until he's 75. So again, the rabbis come up with this story of why bother mentioning Gideon's father in the story? Maybe we're told the terebinth belongs to Joash, who had a son Gideon who was threshing the wheat in the winepress. So why mention Joash at all? And so that's why the rabbis bring him in and create a story that highlights Gideon's personality and his ethical and moral nature. Okay, so it goes on. Ophrah, a place in the territory of Menashe, believed to be at Taiba, located south of Tul-Kerem. Have no idea where that is. That belonged, etc. The words are added to differentiate this Ophrah from that of Benjamin. Mitzudat David holds that the tree and not the village belonged to Joash. Okay. Avi Ezrite, a subdivision of the tribe of Menashe. Gideon, the name is derived from the root gada, to cut down, and probably means the hewer. He was evidently a man of extraordinary strength. Maybe this will be a first example before Samson, because we'll get to him in a couple of chapters, and he also extraordinary strength. So, beating out. The verb chabat denotes threshing with a stick, as distinct from douche with cattle. The method was more secretive and therefore employed in the dangerous circumstances. Wine press. The gat was a rectangular trough hewn out of the sloping of the rock. From it, the juice of the grapes, after being pressed out by treading, flowed into a similarly constructed receptacle a little lower down. In the restricted space of a wine press, the wheat could only be threshed in small quantities. To hide it, literally to cause to flee. The normal threshing floor was on the exposed top of a hill to catch the wind, and it would not occur to the Midianites that a wine press was being used for the purpose. Appeared, consequently he must hitherto have been unseen. The Lord is with thee. As a common form of greeting, it would have ordinarily conveyed a friendly wish. May the Lord be with thee. Gideon understood it as an assertion and reacted with a bitter retort. Mighty man of valor. The expression occurs frequently in the Bible, but in this book only here in chapter 11 of Yiftach. The addition of this compliment to the greeting made Gideon detect a deeper significance. Encouraged by the salutation, Gideon ventures to question the stranger, whom he evidently recognizes as no ordinary individual. O, Hebrew B, a deprecatory interjection, which may be rendered by your leave. Please do not take offense at what I am about to say. The term is often used in deferential speech. With us, in his modesty, he missed the angel's point. The Lord is with you, hence the question which follows. Why? Gideon does not display ignorance of the cause of Israel's plight. He asks the speaker to reconcile his assertion with the facts of the situation, since it appeared to him that God had deserted the people and left them vulnerable to any happening. Right? In other words, Gideon said, if God's with us, doesn't look that way. Midianites are oppressing us. How does that prove that God's with us? All this, he either means all that had been described earlier in the chapter, or he may have pointed to the winepress and the small portion of wheat he was engaged in beating out. Where are, etc. The question is asked not in a tone of skepticism, but of bewilderment. Right, so kind of tempering, the commentary is tempering Gideon's chutzpah, but just like, where's God? Where are all the wonders? As opposed to, really? God's here? Where are the wonders? Which our fathers told us. It's refreshing amid the repeated admonitions in which the book abounds to have this testimony to the existence of a form of religious education. Despite the fact that many of the people worshipped idols, as did Gideon's father Joash, we have no idea. The rabbis are making that up. They still observe the mitzvot in general, and in compliance with Deuteronomy 6, passed on the national traditions to their children. So that's just a midrash that he's saying we learned from our fathers. So the rabbis are taking off on that by saying, oh, here's proof that they're passing the Torah down from one generation to the next. Hand, Hebrew kaf, palm, a more emphatic term than yad, which conveys the idea of gripping. The Lord. Hitherto the angel had been speaking. Gideon's reply made him worthy to receive direct communication from God. Others explain that the angel spoke in the name of God, interpreting the verse as, and the angel of the Lord turned towards him. This thy might, that is, in the might with which God was endowing him for the accomplishment of the mission on which he was being sent. Others interpret this as referring to the merit he acquired by defending the Israelites. Have I not sent thee? Alternatively, indeed I have sent thee. The word halo is used to strengthen the statement. Therefore, hasten to carry out your mission. You may not hesitate, this is a command. Oh, see on verse 13. My Lord, Gideon was not yet certain that he was addressing an angel of God. Despite the vowel signs usually signifying the name of God, it may still be rendered my Lord, right? It could still be Adoni as opposed to Adonai, with the plural form used out of respect for the person addressed. The kamatz, that's the T vowel under the nun, is attributed to the pause. In other words, you can make the argument that you should read it as Adoni and not Adonai, God. Targum, however, the Aramaic, renders it as my Lord, denoting that Gideon was already aware that he was speaking to an angel of God or that God himself was addressing him. Wherewith Israel, such humility was characteristic of Israel's leaders. Family, literally thousand, right? The word alpi. My family is among the poor in Menashe. See the Saxon use of the word hundred. This subdivision of the tribe, originally perhaps for military purposes, was itself made up of mishpachot, families, and these in turn of fathers' houses. This follows the Aramaic. Others explain that each tribe was divided into thousands, each one governed by a leader. Kimchi suggests that Alpi is a derivation of Alufi, my master, referring to his father. So it could be my father is among the poor, my group in Menashe is poor. Poorest. See 1 Samuel 9, where Saul displays similar modesty. The implication is not that the family to which the speaker belongs is poor or insignificant in the absolute sense, but relatively in comparison with more powerful and numerous clans. I will be with thee. The same assurance is given to Moses. There are several details in the call to Gideon which are reminiscent of Moses' appointment to Israel out of Egypt, to lead Israel out of Egypt. As one man, again in Numbers 14, variously explained as at one blow, swiftly, completely, so that there are no survivors. It was not unusual for a man who had received a divine call to be given a sign as a guarantee that it was genuine. It's probably that the direct communication from God ended at this point, and the dialogue between Gideon and the angel resumed. Show me a sign, more literally, perform for me a sign. It is thou that. This is a paraphrase to bring out the intention. The text is literally that thou walkest with me. And bring my present, see on chapter 3. Went in to his tent. Kid, literally kid of the goats. Manoach did the same in similar circumstances. That's chapter 13. Ephah, about a bushel. Pour out, we're on 2:10. Pour out, some explain this as pour away, as something unwanted. It's therefore not mentioned in the next verse. Others explain that he was to pour it on the rock to moisten it and make the subsequent miracle of the fire emanating therefrom even greater. Departed out of his sight, it's not clear whether the angel ascended in the flame, as happened with Manoach, or suddenly vanished. The text merely states that he went away from his eyes. Abarvanel compares the two, whereas Dot Sofrim is inclined to believe that Manoach's revelation was greater than Gideon's. That he was the angel of the Lord proved by his mysterious disappearance. For as much as, see the same phrase in a similar context in Genesis 33. Literally, the expression means because, therefore. The clause beginning with this word and continuing to the end of the verse is not to be understood as a continuation of the exclamation, but the reason spoken softly to himself as an aside for having cried out. This is borne out by the phrase, the angel of the Lord, instead of your angel at the end of the verse. I have seen, etc. The belief that divine beings cannot be seen by living man was deep-seated in the Israelite mind and is expressed in the words, man shall not see me and live, Exodus 33. Consequently, an experience such as here described was regarded as an omen of impending death. 2:11, peace be. Some render there is peace. Adonai Shalom, meaning the Lord is peace, the name perpetuating the words of encouragement which God had addressed to him. Unto this day, explained by some Jewish commentators as referring to the time of David, that is, when Samuel composed the book. So some think that Samuel wrote the book of Judges. Okay, let's go to altar. And we're on page 140. Gideon. The name transparently derives from the verb stem, gimel dalid ayin. The apostrophe there represents the silent letter ayin, which means to hack down. Since the name appears to be a consequence of his first act in the story, one might guess that his original name was actually the pagan name Yeruvaal, which would mean Baal contends for his loyal worshipers, and not, as verse 32 suggests, let Baal contend for himself, or perhaps, referring to Gideon, he contends with Baal. In other words, we haven't read the whole story yet, and altar is telling us something about what happens next in the story, and to suggest a different name for Gideon. 12, the Lord's messenger. The Masoretic text reads the Lord, but some Hebrew manuscripts have the Lord's messenger. The same problem occurs in verse 16. There are scholars who think messenger was piously added earlier and later in the passage in order to avoid excessive anthropomorphism. But on the other hand, the image of God himself poking at something with the tip of a walking stick would be anomalous. And so it seems wiser to assume that the interlocutor throughout is a divine emissary, not the divinity. Valiant warrior, he has not yet earned this epithet, which is thus predictive, and in fact he seems, as Yaira Amit has observed, a rather fearful man. Go in this power of yours. This phrase probably suggests that the Lord's messenger is conferring power on Gideon. My clan is poor, I am the youngest. Such professions of inadequacy regularly occur in the call narratives of the prophets, and they are evident in Moses's call narrative. In fact, the possession of numerous servants, or perhaps slaves, indicates that Gideon's family is well off. Well, we haven't met the slaves yet. Pour out the broth. Though the liquid in question is not conventional in the cult, this looks like a libation. And the Lord's messenger went from his sight. Given the fact that he has just miraculously ignited a fire on the rock, it is likely that his going away is equally miraculous, a sudden vanishing. Alas, Lord, my master. Here, the direct reference to God is appropriate because one would pray to God, not to a divine emissary. But Gideon fears that beholding even a messenger of God could mean death for him. Yahweh Shalom, that is the Lord, it is well, the words God spoke to Gideon. Okay, that's all that we had read. Let's see. I'm not sure we're going to have time for the rest of the book. Maybe we can read 25 to 32. That is the next section. Let's see if we can do that. Yeah. Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead, Beth.
I know I could look it up, but what happened with Deborah and Barak? We're done with them?
We're all done. We're all done. Yeah,
Okay.
it's 40 years later, and it's,
Okay.
yeah. And this is a different part of Israel too. Wherever Menashe is, Deborah and Barak was in Yisachar and Naphtali. So, 25. Vayehi balayla hahu, vayomer lo Adonai, kach et par hashur asher la'avicha, upar hasheni sheva shanim, v'harasta et mizbach ha'baal asher la'avicha, v'et ha'ashera asher alav tichrot. So at that night, God said to him, take the bullock that is your father's, and the second bullock that is 7 years old, 7 years old, and destroy the Baal altar that your father has, and cut down the Asherah next to it. So here's proof that Yoash was an idolater. So we just hadn't read it yet. 26, Uvanita mizbeach ladonai Elohecha al rosh ha'ma'oz hazeh b'ma'aracha v'lakachta et apar hasheni v'ha'alita ola ba'atzei ha'asherah asher tichrot. So build an altar to God, your God, on the top of the stronghold, this stronghold, in the ordered place, the ma'aracha, whatever the ordered place is, and take that second bullock and offer it up as a burnt offering using the wood of the Asherah that you cut down. 27, Vayikach Gidon asara anashim me'avadav, Vayas ka'asher diber elav Adonai, Vayihi ka'asher yareh et beit aviv ve'et anshei ha'ir me'asot yomam vayas laila. So Gideon took 10 men from his slaves and did what God told him to do. And he was afraid of his father's house and the people of the city from doing it during the day, so he did it at night. 28, Vayashkimu anshe ha'ir baboker, vehine nutatz mizbach ha'Baal, v'ha'ashera asher alav korata, ve'et ha'par hasheni ho'ala al ha'mizbeach habanui. The people of the town got up in the morning and they saw that the altar of Baal was broken down and that the Asherah next to it was cut down and that the second bullock was offered up on that built altar. Vayamru ish el reyehu mi asa hadavar hazeh. Vayidrshu vayavakshu vayamru Gidon ben Yoash asa hadavar hazeh. So everybody asked everybody else who did this. And they searched it out and they researched and they said, Gidon, son of Yoash, did this thing. 30, Vayamru anshe ha'ir el Yoash, Hotseet bincha vayamot, ki natatz et mizbach ha'Baal, v'chi charata asherah, asher alav. And the people of the city said to Yoash, bring out your son. We should kill him because he broke down the Baal altar and he cut down the Asherah next to it. 31, Vayomer Yoash, L'chol asher amdu alav, ha'atem terivun laBaal, im atem toshiun oto, asher yariv lo, yumat ad haboker im Elohim hu yarev lo, ki natatz et mizbecho. So, and Yoash said to everybody who was standing against him, will you fight for Baal or will you save him? He that fights for him shall be put to death before morning. And if he be a god, let him contend for himself, because one has broken down his altar. In other words, who are you fighting for Baal? Baal must have wanted the altar to have been cut down because Baal wouldn't have let it happen if Baal didn't want it to happen. 32, Vayikra lo bayomahu yeru Baal lemor, yarev bo haBaal ki natatz et mizbacho. Therefore, on that day he was called Yeru-Baal, saying, let Baal contend against him, because he has broken down his altar. Okay, so let's look at the commentary here. Back to 211, the same night after the incidents related. Bullock, literally the bullock of the ox. The tautology is explained by taking ox as descriptive and understanding the phrase as a large ox, an ox as big as a bullock. Or by supposing that the bullock of the ox means the bullock born through the ox. Ralbag, who favors the second alternative, maintains that the bullock had been designated by Gideon's father as an idolatrous sacrifice from the moment of conception, and the same applies to the second bullock. Accordingly, these animals had been designated as idolatrous sacrifices for 7 years, in fact, since the commencement of the Midianite oppression. 7 years old, this follows Kimchi, Targum rendered fattened for 7 years. Baal, see chapter 2. Your father has, he was its custodian by proprietary right. Asherah, see chapter 3. This stronghold, that is the rock on which he had offered the meat and unleavened bread. Some modern commentators suppose that it denotes a place of security devised by Yoash and his neighbors to which they could withdraw on the approach of the Midianites. The ordered place, the Hebrew ma'aracha, means a row. It might refer to the flat top of the rock upon which the stones of the altar could be arranged in a row. Alternatively, it may refer to the row of stones comprising the first altar he had built. He was to take the stones of the destroyed altar of the Baal and to build an altar atop the first one. Gideon carried out the divine command at night because his act was in defiance of the commonly accepted rite of worship. The second bullock, Kimchi supposes that the only purpose of taking the first bullock was to deprive the Abiezrites of it so that they might not offer it to Baal. They thought that Yoash still believed in idolatry and would be honored to punish his rebellious son. The truth was that he had fully repented. Against, we're on 2:13, against literally upon, which may mean near. Will you, the Hebrew is very emphatic, contend for Baal. It's proper that you should contend on behalf of a god. It's presumption. Or will you save him? Is it for human beings to be avengers of an outraged deity? Shall be put to death. To impugn the divine character of a god by questioning his power to defend himself against dishonor made one liable to the death penalty. Before morning, literally until morning, Gideon's deed had been committed during the night and discovered the following day when the scene of this verse took place. The phrase therefore indicates by tomorrow morning. Let him contend for himself. Note the irony. If Baal cannot punish an insult, what sort of God is he? Yeru Baal, that is, let Baal contend. The derivation is not so much philological as phonological. Assonance is a common source of biblical names. Okay, let's look at altar on this. Back to 142. The second bull. This second bull is a puzzle because nothing afterward is done in the story with what appears to be a first bull. Some scholars solve the problem by amending sheni, second, to shamein, fat, thus eliminating the multiplicity of bulls. This stronghold, see the comment of verse 3. On the surface, the Hebrew ma'aracha is a little odd. It usually refers to anything arrayed in a set order, like the items in a sacrifice or troops in an army. Perhaps here it's a kind of metonymy, as Kimchi surmised, indicating the flat surface of the rock on which the sacrifice is to be laid out. The men of the town feared to do it by day. Here, the fearful ones are Gideon's subordinates, not Gideon himself. This nocturnal act is of a piece with the clandestine threshing of wheat in a winepress. However, the people feared here are not Midianite marauders, but the Israelite inhabitants of the town who have made Baal worship the official cult there, as we see vividly in their resolution to execute Gideon for having desecrated the altar of Baal. Let he who would contend for him be put to death. Yoash shrewdly argues that if Baal has real power as a god, he will fight his own battles and exact punishment from the person who violated his altar. If he does not do that, he is not worthy of worship. All right, we'll stop here for today. We'll finish the story of Gideon next time, and wish everybody a good rest of the day, and Shabbat Shalom, everybody.
Shabbat
Shalom.
Good job, this.
Thank you, Jonah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Back again.
Thank you.